Hi, my name is Panayotis Kasiris, and I will be doing a presentation on the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act. What is the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act? After the natural disaster Hurricane Katrina, our emergency management system was exposed, and this act filled any gaps that were in our emergency management system. Reforms were needed desperately after Hurricane Katrina, and being able to prepare and respond and mitigate damages in future natural disasters is very important. After Hurricane Katrina, response teams were not prepared for a natural disaster of this magnitude. This act was designed to carry out FEMA's goals and missions of protecting, mitigating, preparing, defending, and responding to threats in the United States. This act essentially integrated FEMA with the Department of Homeland Security, and all of their actions and functions are all entities of the DHS and within the DHS. So what agencies helped respond to Hurricane Katrina? Of course, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, helped respond. The United States Coast Guard, state and local level agencies, federal and the National Guard soldiers, non-governmental organizations, charities, and private parties. So why was the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act enacted? Since Hurricane Katrina showed major holes in the United States' emergency response infrastructure, there was inadequacy across the board in federal, state, and local levels. The response to this disaster and the preparedness we have was an embarrassment, and reform was necessary. It was created to improve the state and local emergency preparedness plans and also targeted the aid for families and people with special needs. Changes to the response community. When responding, communication is key. The quality of communication is very important when responding to a natural disaster. And during Hurricane Katrina, our communication was very, very low in quality. This called for communication systems to be upgraded, along with many other vast upgrades within the response community and across the board in terms of response capabilities and planning. Urban planning was implemented in regions at high risk. Urban planning would fortify buildings, roads, power lines, and many other things making up the infrastructure of cities. This would aid the area that is at risk of a natural disaster of this magnitude. After this act, FEMA had a more enhanced role in the response community. FEMA had a lot more partnerships with the private sector, with state and local governments in respect to responding to natural disasters. Prior to Hurricane Katrina, the Department of Defense only had the Coast Guard and the National Guard that had a comprehensive response capability. But after the Post-Katrina Emergency Reform Act, every agency within the DoD had a comprehensive response capability. This enlarged our response community and would further enhance our ability to respond to natural disasters of this magnitude. What are some lessons learned from Hurricane Katrina, and what can the United States Emergency Management System take away from this natural disaster? One thing that we learned was that our national preparedness was not up to par, and it was affected in every aspect, pushing for a more interconnected effort between communities, states, and federal governments. To be more interconnected, there must be a good quality communication, which resulted in a communications upgrade. Regional planning and coordination was implemented and is very important in areas that are at high risk. For example, massive upgrades in the infrastructure in areas that are at high risk, which would include funding for responding to such disasters and fortifying the community. Also deploying response teams in areas like Florida, Louisiana, and areas along the Gulf Coast that will be very vulnerable to a disaster like this. After the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act, FEMA has required training programs. And annually there are training programs that practice the responding of events like this. FEMA's goals are to respond as quickly as possible and learn new ways to create a more swift response effort. And these training programs are aimed to achieve that goal. Incident management assistant teams were created after this act, and they were deployed across the United States to create a quicker response time as well. These are response teams that are deployed that are able to comprehensively respond to any natural disaster that happens. These teams would quickly deploy first responders and soldiers that could help during that time of emergency. And this has recorded a very positive impact over the years. As a result of the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act, I think that there was a massive improvement in our response efforts, and we are now able to prepare, respond, recover, and mitigate damages at a much higher level. Hope you guys enjoyed this presentation, and I hope everybody can take away that the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act has affected our response efforts and emergency management system very positively, and we have made many steps ever since then to make sure that a disaster like this never happens again, and that our emergency management system is more efficient and effective in future natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina.